I love how the one day I decide to film outside, everybody wants to do yard work today. Y'all weren't doing yard work before. Anyway, I wanted to address something that I hear pretty frequently from people who want to solo travel and really want to get out there and do it, but they're afraid, and they're mostly afraid of this one thing: loneliness, feeling lonely. That is, in my opinion, something that's going to happen. You will get lonely, and it sucks. I've certainly struggled with feeling lonely when I've been traveling alone. I've actually struggled with loneliness in traveling, solo traveling, but also traveling with other people. I've felt lonely. Loneliness is just something that happens, and it will happen. And unfortunately, I think there are some people who don't feel lonely. I don't feel it now as much as I used to before, but it happens. So what I wanted to do was just kind of sit down and chat with you guys about what I do, or what I have done, what I do when I'm traveling and I feel lonely. And also, I also wanted to address the fear of solo traveling, because I think there are some people who just have a fear of just doing it alone, just traveling alone, getting out there alone. And I understand it. Trust me, I get it. Because I felt those very same fears before I took my first solo trip and before I started traveling on my own. I think, well, firstly, I wanted to say, if you feel fear about getting out there and solo traveling, feel the fear and do it anyway. Because you won't know, you're not going to know what's past that fear until you do it. Once you push past that fear and you take your first solo trip, that's when you'll figure out if solo travel is even for you. I think I've said this before, and it's probably something I'm going to continue to say time and time again, but traveling alone is not for everyone. There are people out there who have tried solo traveling and have figured out that it is not for them. I have friends that wouldn't have no interest in traveling alone at all. I have friends that have traveled alone and, they're indifferent to it, or they just don't like it. There are plenty of people who don't like traveling alone, and that's okay. You may be one of those people, but you won't know until you push past the fear and you do it. And that way you can figure out if you like it. And you never know, you may love it or you may hate it. You never know. Here are a couple of things that I've done that you can do if you find yourself on a solo trip and you're feeling lonely. Or if you're about to take your first solo trip and you're just really afraid that you're gonna hit a period of loneliness. Recognize that the chances are high that you will get lonely, and that is okay. I want to share what I do when I feel like I'm, on a trip and I feel lonely. So one of the things that I do is I get in touch with family and friends. I love WhatsApp, and that is a great resource to get in touch with your family and friends, especially if you're abroad, because it's free. You can do phone calls, you can do video chats, you can text. And I find that sometimes if I feel lonely on a trip, I find a nice spot, maybe a park somewhere, or like a lookout point, a viewing point, like a view of the city, and I WhatsApp video a friend, or I text a friend, or I just send an honest message and I say, hey, I'm in so-and-so and I'm feeling kind of lonely. Are you available to chat? I think that's always good, to be able to talk to people that love you and care about you. It also reminds you that you're not alone. You may be alone on that trip and in that destination, but you're not alone in life. And so getting in touch with a family member or a friend and, having a quick chat, texting with someone that you love, that you care about, that cares about you, is helpful. It kind of takes your mind off of the fact that you're feeling lonely, gets you out of yourself. Another thing that I try to do, which is really difficult, is to stop comparing myself to other people. This is really great in life, but it's also really great in the context of travel, because you don't know what's going on with other people, and you don't know anybody else's life but your own. And so it's really important to just stay in your lane and focus on yourself. I remember feeling really lonely one time on a trip. It wasn't a solo trip. It was a trip with my parents, with my family. And we were on a resort, and I remember I was by myself at this time. And I remember looking around me and seeing all of these couples, and I'm single. So I remember looking around me, seeing all of these couples and just feeling just this loneliness. And it could, when I could just feel it like in my bones. It was so bad. And I just remember feeling so lonely. And I remember thinking, gosh, like it would be so nice to be here with someone, and it would be so great to just be coupled up with someone. And, but I remember texting a friend and telling her how I was feeling, and her response could not have been more perfect. She basically told me, stop comparing myself to other people. At the end of the day, I think the truth is that I was feeling loneliness inside of me because I was comparing my state of being to what I was seeing around me. But the truth is that I didn't know those people. I didn't know their circumstances or their relationships. Just because I see them in a relationship doesn't mean it's a good relationship, doesn't mean it's a relationship that I would want to have. It doesn't mean they're happy. They could be happy. They could be over the moon. But I wouldn't know anything about that because I don't know these people. But I was sitting there comparing myself to them. Do you see what I'm saying? I think something that goes also along with not comparing yourself to other people is not worrying about what other people think. I know what it feels like to not travel alone because you're afraid of what other people are going to think. And I think there are a lot of people who stop themselves from doing things that they want to do, not just traveling alone, but stop themselves from doing things that they want to do because they're scared of what other people are going to think. I know because I've been there. Like I've done this many times, and I'm sure I will continue to do it in the future. Easier said than done, for sure. But another example, I am completely obsessed with Spain, and I lived in Spain for about 3 to 4 years. And I remember when I was living in New York, and I was thinking about moving to Spain. I hadn't moved there yet, but I was thinking about it. Doing part-time work for this guy for his business. And I remember him, when I brought up the idea that I was thinking about moving to Spain, I remember him telling me that it was such a bad idea and who does that? Because I know that it's not a common thing to do. A lot of people don't just up and move to a different country. I know that. But I do remember him telling me, why would you do that? And New York has everything. Why would you leave New York and go to Europe? You go visit Europe, you don't go live there. And he couldn't really understand why I had that desire and why I was, why I would ever do something like that. But if I had cared about what that guy thought, I wouldn't be sitting here today in front of you. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. That's a very significant event in my life. When I moved to Spain, I met my tribe. I met some incredible friends that I have now that I never would have met if I hadn't have taken that leap. And you don't know what's like I said before, you don't know what's on the other side of fear. You just don't. It could be contentment in realizing that solo travel isn't for you, and you're happy that you had that experience, but it's not something that you want to do again. Or it could be completely liberating experience, and you realize, wow, I can't believe I've been missing out on this however many years. If I hadn't moved to Spain, and if I had listened to what that guy was telling me, and actually he wasn't the only person that said things like that. There were many people who thought that I was crazy for moving to Spain. But if I hadn't have done it, I'm telling you, man, like some of the people that I love so much in my world, that I care about so much, I never would have met them if I hadn't have taken that leap and went for it. And I was afraid. I was really afraid. I think one of my biggest fears was not meeting people, not meeting friends. And I met a ton of them. And I'm really glad I did. So, yeah. Another thing that's really helpful that I have found really helpful is to remember the why. Remember why you're doing it. Solo travel is really booming now, and you have to remember why you're doing it. Are you doing it for the clout? Or is it about gaining Instagram followers and, showing off your travels to the world? I don't know. Are you doing it because you really want to? I can't tell you why you're solo traveling or why you want to solo travel, but remember your why. Remember why you're doing it. This was something that I know has really kept me going, especially when I was living in Spain. and moments when I was feeling lonely and being away from my family, that was something I would keep in the back of my head all the time, because I had to remember why I was there. Whatever that why is for you, you know, for some people it's the frustration of group travel and the frustration of planning a trip and it always falling through because the people that you're planning that trip with aren't reliable, or it's because you want to get to know yourself better, or it's because you've been dying to see that particular city or that particular part of the world. Remember why you're doing it, because that why is going to drive you. I don't know what that why is for you, only you can say, but I know that it's really helped for me. It's really helped me in those moments, especially when I'm deep in those moments of loneliness. I sit and I try to remember why I'm doing this. Nobody gets to this massive world traveler. No one just wakes up and is like that. No one just wakes up and has, 100 countries under their belt or whatever. I've traveled the world. Like, nobody gets there overnight. It's baby steps. It's taking baby steps. And if you really want to see the world, if you really want to do it, you can. You just have to remember the why. You cannot care about what other people think about you or what other people are going to say, their judgment. You cannot focus on anybody else but yourself. People say the comparison is the thief of joy. And I can tell you, I've had moments where I've been so happy with what I have and I'm so content. And then I look at what someone else has and what other people are doing. And it's like instant. It just sucks all the joy right out of me. And I hate that. I hate that for myself. I hate that for you. And the last thing I want to say is give yourself grace. It is not easy. It is not easy to take a trip alone. It's not. It's hard sometimes, especially in the beginning when you go to a restaurant and you say one please and they look at you and they're like, are you sure? It's not easy having people constantly ask you where your boyfriend is or your significant other or whatever, and having people bombard you with, travel articles and safety things and, it's not easy when people are constantly doubting your decision-making skills and putting those seeds of doubt in your head. Traveling in general is not easy, but the added pressure of doing it alone it's a lot. It's a lot to handle and it's not easy. Also know that it's okay to be lonely. It's okay to feel that way. We all feel that way at some point in our lives. And some of us more often than others, and that's okay. It's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to cry. I can't even tell you how many trips I've cried on. And not just solo travel trips, just traveling in general. It's okay to cry. It is okay to cry. Lean into it. That's what I say. Lean into it. Sometimes when I'm feeling that way, I just got to lean into it. And sometimes leaning into it, you feel better after. Sometimes when you feel nauseous and you know that throwing up is going to make you feel better. Sorry, it's kind of a gross example, but I think it's the same thing with loneliness sometimes. Like crying and leaning into that feeling, because you don't have to cry, but if you feel like crying, you can. But sometimes feeling all those icky, vulnerable feelings that we don't want to feel, sometimes leaning into it makes you feel so much better after. Yeah. We can all just breathe. If you feel a little bit of relief after watching this video, please give it a like, comment below and let me know. If you have any other solo travel fears or if you're afraid to take the jump, let me know why. Subscribe to this channel. I talk all things travel, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I add a new video. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.